Hello, 1970s GM car enthusiasts. Do you have a 70s GM that has a horn pad malfunction or simply does not work? If so, this video will show you how to make a repair. The horn pad being repaired today is from a 1974 Chevrolet Monte Carlo. This video will also be useful for owners of other 1970 GM products. So let's join Mark in the garage.
Everyone, I am going to be working on the horn pad of a 1974 Chevrolet Monte Carlo. Now, GM used this horn setup for many of its line and for a number of years. This happens to come out of my my daily driver, and it may not be quite apparent, but the color is green. Now, and it's sort of like a sage green or a medium green as opposed to a dark green. Now, the issue here is that the horn pad has gotten so hard and so rigid and so stiff to where the horn is either always engaged or it's not engaged and it doesn't work. And as you can see, this has no pliability to it whatsoever. I can't move it no matter how much effort I put into it. In contrast, here goes a horn pad that I have that's dark green, so it's not quite suitable for my application, but I got this about 30 years ago and it's been well preserved in my garage this entire time. As you can see, this is very pliable. This is how it should be. And when I use my handy dandy continuity meter, the horn part of it works. You can actually see the contact. Let's see, probably from this angle you can see the contact right here as it makes connection with the base plate. So I'm going to need to figure out how I'm going to get this to work. I have in mind that what I'm going to do, since to restore this is essentially impossible since the parts are made out of unobtainium. So the way this sits in the car, you never see the bottom edge unless you're actually making a turn. So what I'm going to try is, let me see what happens if I cut off this bottom edge and if I can remove this cover, and then see about re-engineering or somehow affecting some sort of a repair by either removal of material and or using some silicone sealant that's very flexible to sort of put this back into place so that way this contact will function again. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I haven't seen anybody do this. So if I'm able to make this work, this will turn into more of a instructional video as well as a hopefully it'll turn into an instructional video. So first I need to do is to determine, well, how is this thing made? So I'm going to pull this thing off and see where I would be making my cut. Gee, I wish this thing would move. That it was that pliable, man. It would make life so much easier. Okie dokie. So I can already see it looks like this is really, yeah, okay, so this looks like it kind of fits around here like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut along this line here and then along this back edge. So on the actual piece, here we are. So I'm going to cut along this line and then along this back edge here, all the way across, and see if I can remove this cover. So I'm going to get started here with my handy dandy Dremel. Before I go any further, do your MSA, which is mental safety assessment, using my eye protection and hearing protection. These things make a pretty good whine, and if you're using it, like say for 10 seconds here or there, is one thing, but extended periods of time, you could suffer some hearing loss. I want to continue to hear my music for as long as I live, so I'm going to be using these. Let's see what happens. So I may have to go and actually cut along the upper edge now. Okie dokie then. Now, just as a quick observation, this thing doesn't work, so it's broken. So what's the worst I can do is break it. Anyway, let's see what happens. Hey, check that out. How about that? Hey, I can already start to see the contact moving. Oh, this is a positive kind of a thing. Let's see. Well, I'm having trouble with the top part. Okay, I'm going to try something that I hope will work. I'm going to use a heat gun on this top part, maybe help to soften it, and then see if I can ply it apart. Edge a little bit. And you know, at the risk of being redundant, I'm going to state once again, this is my first instructional video. So I didn't realize that it was hard to see some of the stuff that I was doing. So I want to give you a closer look here. This is the line along which I cut. Actually, let me show you what. This is what it looked like when it was when I didn't cut it. So there's a line right there, and started it right there, and then I brought it up and around this lowest edge. So you can kind of see, you know, I started right there. I brought it up and around that lowest edge, all the way across to the other side. Now, as I'm pulling this apart, I'm seeing, hey, looks like there's a spacer here and a spacer there. Once I get this cover completely off, I'll be able to assess this much better. But so far, this is I'm pretty optimistic that this is going to work out. So the next step will be to heat this up, heat the top edge so that it becomes pliable. Using heat will soften really aged vinyl, but only temporarily. One of the issues that caused this to fail is that the vinyl cover actually shrank over the decades, and as it shrank, it got tighter and tighter around the structure of the horn, and so as it got tighter, it then caused this to most of the time stay engaged. In any case, let's give that a shot. Alright, so I got my handy dandy trusty heat gun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat up this edge just enough to try and soften it, so that way I can pry this cover off all the way and off of the outer edge of the base for this horn. So let's see what happens. And this is one where I don't need my handy dandy eye protection, but I may want to opt to put on hearing protection. No, it's nice and quiet. Heck, this thing's quieter than a vacuum cleaner. Now this is still running because it has an auto cool down feature. Oh wow, look at that. Look at that. That's working. That's working. Alright, let's see now. We can get this off of here. There we go. Oh, I see what this is. This isn't a spacer. This is a piece that was originally part of the insulator between the contact and the base. That's what this is. You can see right there. There's a gap there and a gap there. And the top one is still mostly in place. So these are getting saved. But yeah, this worked out. Okay. Now I think what I'm going to do, let's see here. Yeah, it looks like this thing is going to work out right. So the next step will be for me to determine what I need to do in order for this top edge to fit on here, but no longer exert a lot of pressure. What I may do is I may just simply remove this edge of metal right along this top, just the top edge. So I'm going to hit the grinder and remove that top edge and see if I can get this to sort of slip back on without having to heat it up. Well, okay. Okay, one of the things I noticed, and this is that piece that was on the side, and I think I mentioned how it's an insulator that's in here. Well, this, 45 plus year old insulator, it has a number of cracks. Like there's one right there, and this needs to go back into here. Looks like this one's got a little crack on it, needs to be repositioned. And I know that there was I saw one from up here somewhere. Oh wait, there it is. See here? That's got cracked and whatnot. So I think what I'm going to first do before I trim this top part is go through and clean up the contact, and then let's see, I don't know, clean up the contact and maybe see about getting some of this this what kind of looks like oily residue. The tech term of this stuff, this is diluent. Diluent is what is put into plastics and vinyls to make them supple, and as time goes by, and depending on the formulation, that diluent tends to leach out and it goes all over the place, and so it's this gooey, icky, gooey stuff here. So I'm going to use some handy dandy carb cleaner or brake cleaner to go through and clean this up, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to epoxy these various pieces that make up the insulator, and epoxy them back into place using a non-conductive epoxy. So let's get started on cleaning this and see what happens. MSA, this stuff can sometimes spray where you don't want it to go. You know what? To do this right, to have this actually work the way I want it to, I'm going to have to remove this contact and get underneath it with some steel wool. Now this contact is held in place on one side with the insulator, looks like it's heat welded or heat riveted. The insulator being plastic, they apply a little bit of heat on these studs, and then the studs kind of expand a little bit. And they didn't do it on all of them. Like for instance, there goes a stud that has not been heated. So what I'm going to do is use the handy dandy Dremel tool to trim off those studs on the back side here that have the little welds on them, or the little rivets, I guess you could say, and then pull this apart. It'll also give me an opportunity to really clean up the contacts and then to epoxy them together appropriately and correctly. Alright, let's get started on this. Let's take out these little rivets. Yeah. Well, the rest of these seem to be pretty well done, except for this one guy. Come on now. There we go. Oh yeah. Good choice. Yeah, this is definitely going to need to be addressed with some steel wool to get rid of all of that rust, because rust will interfere with the contact on your horn. If surfaces are rusty, electricity doesn't travel through rust. So here we are. Let's get to work. Alright, before I tackle cleaning this, I'm going to remove, carefully see about removing these pieces of insulation which belong on here. Like this goes there, this piece goes right there. You can see there's a piece here missing, but I still have it. So I'm going to take those off first and see if some handy dandy steel wool will make some good progress. I'm being really careful here. I'm going to try and clean away the diluent from the sides of this, because this plastic insulator is also as old as dirt, and it's made out of unobtainium. I mean, all of this stuff's made out of unobtainium. So I can already see that this has a crack right there. So this is going to need to this is gonna come apart as soon as I loosen this off of this piece anyway. So I just have to make my peace with that. Oh goodness, this is on here a little bit more firm than I would. There we go. It's looking pretty good. Maybe clean up the edge of this, because I've been thinking about how I'm going to address the issue with the pad. Actually, this would be a good time to see about getting this to work and to fit without that, so that way that contact doesn't get damaged. So what I'm thinking of doing is grinding away this upper edge right here. It's about maybe 3/32. It's less than an eighth, but more than a 16th, so it's probably 3/32 lip right here. So I'm going to grind that away, and then probably and then see if it'll just fit as I would want it to. If it does, hey, you know, we're bitching. If not, I may have to remove just, you know, a little bit of material at a time until everything fits and works the way I would like it to. So I guess that means the next step is to take this to the handy dandy grinder, grind this down. You know what, while I'm at it, I think I'm just going to wire wheel this whole thing. Let's take a look at the back of this. You know, if I didn't know better, it almost seems like that this contact is made of stainless steel. Get my handy dandy glasses on. Alright. So, let's take this over to the handy dandy bench grinder and trim this top edge, hit the rest of this with the wire wheel, and I'll be back.